So in terms of implementing these concepts into professional practice, we know that each family is unique and that our service approach has to be individualized accordingly. And I think family quality of life provides another dimension to look at how the family is doing beyond things that are child-specific measures. So I'm going to show you some measures and tools that are out there that are available to the public, and I have the websites. But I think what it does is just kind of gives you structure to look at these broader issues from the family's perspective. And it provides an opportunity to even start this conversation. So, you can look at these measures and determine what you think might be relevant within your specific field, but it is a starting point as well as perhaps a tracking mechanism. So the first one is out of the Surrey Place Centre in Toronto, and this is the long measure that Grace was referencing. So it includes 121 items over 9 domains. So this is if you have some time and you really want to examine these issues in an interview format. A bonus of this measure is that it's really been extensively translated. I believe it's available in about 20 languages, and it's been used in, I think, over 25 countries around the world. The other side of that is you need the ability to then use it in that measure or language and get someone to back translate it for you, but it's available. And the psychometric validity is not as well established as the other measures, so I'll go through them both, and hopefully you can think of places where one might be appropriate. So this one has the 9 domains that I just put up there again to refresh your memory, and then each domain is measured over 6 concepts. So it includes opportunities, which is really the options available to the family to even kind of access these things. The initiative, so the degree to which they take advantage of available opportunities. Attainment, the family's ability to obtain or accomplish those things that are important to them. Satisfaction, and then stability. So how much do they think these things are going to improve, decline, or stay the same over time? And hopefully you can see it, yeah. So these are just snippets from the measures, so you can see what they actually look like and how there's kind of opportunity for qualitative elaboration and notes. So it asks, this is from the health of the family domain, so it asks general questions about the physical or mental health of the family member. And then it goes through, I've only included a couple, but it goes through those concept questions. So this one shows opportunities, initiative, attainment, and stability. And there's satisfaction. And then again, more opportunity for notes. So as I said, this one was really designed to be administered in an interview format. Research has been done with parents self-reporting on it, and it's just kind of found that some of the concepts are quite confusing to parents without the benefit of having a professional there to explain it and kind of work through that together. So I think that's where really the value in this measure lies. And then in terms of the Beach Center, this is a 25-item instrument that's intended to be self-administered, and it goes over those 5 domains: family interaction, parenting, emotional well-being, physical and material well-being, and disability-related support. It's pretty quick, 20 minutes, and parents just rate kind of dissatisfied to very satisfied is the scale. And there's an example, just a little snippet of what it looks like. So you can see they really kind of have different approaches. However, the Beach Center does have this accompanying family quality of life conversation guide. So if you did want to use this as a kind of a jumping off point, they have that measure available. And the Beach Center actually does have other tools available as well. This is their website. So this center in Kansas, the aim of it is really to improve quality of life and to support professionals in their work with families to promote this. So their tools, they have many tools and resources that are available on their website. I encourage you to check it out and see what's there. This is another example. This is the Family and Professional Partnership Self-Assessment Guide. And this is to assess, this is kind of a professional self-reflection measure, really, to assist professionals to identify possible barriers and facilitators in their ability to promote family-professional partnership. So this is just an example item. I let parents know about the good things their children do, so being strengths-focused, and you would give a score, so a rating score, and then identify what helps you to carry out these practices successfully, and then what kinds of barriers exist, and how can you work to overcome them. And the next one, the Family Communication Integration Survey, is a self-assessment tool to be done with families to consider areas in the community that might be preventing or enhancing their ability to participate and engage in that broader setting. So there's two kind of components, I guess. The community activities just lists activities, and then the family would rate their ability to engage in that. So, low, medium, high. Or the family can say, that's not important to me. That's not of interest to me. I would rather focus on different areas, as well as barriers. So what kinds of barriers exist that prevent your family from engaging in the community to the extent that you would like, and what kinds of supports or services can be put in place to reduce those barriers? So as Grace mentioned, there is overlap in terms of the specific domains and items that the two measures cover. So in terms of kind of choosing, I think you have to think about your specific aims. One might be more appropriate to kind of an intake interview, whereas one might be more appropriate to an evaluation measure. And you can, on the longer one, you can just do those concept questions for each domain if you did want to use those better. But, in terms of self-report, I would recommend the Beach Center one. I think it's easier to understand, and the validity of the measure has been demonstrated to a better degree. And this is where you can find us if you're interested in some of the research that we're doing or more about this particular family quality of life study. As we said, it's just getting going, but we're really hoping to engage families in conversations about what makes a difference for them and how services can be implemented to make positive changes. So thank you.
Thanks to Emily and Dr. Irochi for presenting this very important research. We do have a few minutes to take any questions that you have. Okay.
One of your slides suggested that the income had a stressing indicator on females.
On the mothers.
Explain why that is?
Sure.
I thought it would be kind of the opposite.
On the fathers. Maybe I'll just go back to that.
Excuse me a sec. Sure.
So, family. Okay. Right, so that one surveyed both mothers and fathers of children with a range of disabilities and a range of disability severity levels. And what it found was that for fathers, income wasn't predicting their satisfaction ratings, but it was a significant predictor for mothers. And they didn't kind of get into this further, you know, without the benefit of some qualitative work. We don't know as much about what's really going on there, but our kind of guess is that the mothers are the one probably kind of being the service coordinator. So they might be more aware of how much interventions are costing and what the kinds of services that they'd like their child to be enrolled in, and the limitations of not being able to participate in everything that they want to.
Yeah, very long time ago, I think 1972, at a time when few mothers worked, but the idea you might work was becoming more popular. I actually did a study as part of a degree on, my curiosity was, who is happier, mothers who work or mothers who don't work? And much to my surprise, the answer was not the absolute of income, but rather the expectation of income. So it didn't work out that income was the variable. And the variable that made the difference was whether the woman could choose to work or felt she had to work. But that wasn't just tied to income. So it wasn't just low income, it was, do I have a choice? So my hypothesis might be, this is many decades later, and the children of mothers who did work are now young mothers, and many have gotten their education or who have a desire to work. And when you have a child with significant developmental disability, you often feel the choice has been removed from you.
Yes. Yeah.
And so my answer for why, the fathers typically, I think, grow up and accept they will be the breadwinner, they will have income, and then that's normally, generally speaking, who does it. There's the occasional father and mother trade-off, but mostly the father still works, still contributes, certainly may feel obligated or want to make more money or even take a second job. But I think it is the child with the developmental disability, but I also think it's that as a woman who has had dreams, and they lose the choice, and no matter how much they then want to parent, want to do a good job and everything else, they have also lost that. And I noticed you didn't actually differentiate that, but I think, you know, we speak about the loss of the dream of the child and everything else, but, you know, I think for a woman in this century, there is an element that probably goes a long way for them. And even though it's anchored in, you know, what was my study, I bet you there's still a thread going through there.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And I think it's much more than just that, because as my husband often reminds me, work is a way also to get a bit of a break from home. So no matter how much work stress you have, you're not getting the home stress in addition. You know, you get a break from that. So there's a break from that. There's also rewards that you get from work, which if you don't work, well, you have rewards, but you don't have other rewards, right? So there's lots of benefits, obviously, that a mother who doesn't choose not to work will lose out on. Yeah, absolutely.
I have a little question.
Okay, you first, and then you're going next.
Okay. So yeah, this conference, I found out that problem exists, not only in our family, that mothers get stressed out, but this question never raised with talking to doctors or to psychologists. What are possible solutions, or what's official papers we can read about how to deal with this stress, and what are the solutions?
We were were afraid of that question.
I know that it's not part of the study, you're just
No, we
researching.
hope we can find some clues to solutions based on the information that we get from families. But I don't know that we really have any concrete solutions right now.
Social support.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, that's the one thing that came out in almost all,
Yeah.
in the sort of more generally, developmental disability literature, as well as the studies that were done on families who have a child with ASD, that the social support, when that is there, definitely quality of life improves. So families need to be supported. And that, I mean, in general, but specifically for those who are living with a child with a developmental disability. They need to be supported. The question is how to support them. They'll need different things, and that's what we're not yet clear on. And we hope we'll get some clarity by the number of families that we hope will participate. We'll get a better idea maybe of more general things that are common to a lot of families, and maybe specific things that are unique to specific types of families or situations, hopefully. Sorry, I couldn't give you a satisfying answer.
Emily, I was wondering about the age range for your study, because I think one of the hallmarks of normal family development is that at some stage one's children flee the nest, which many families look forward to, not just because they have more freedom, but also because it signifies a developmental gain by the child, and parents are then looking forward to their children becoming parents, and this is part of the cycle of family life. So will you be including in your study parents of older individuals?
Yeah. It's, at this point, just family members of a child with ASD, age range unlimited. Yeah. Because, you bring up a good point. There's different, I'm scared of the word unique now after some of our conversations, but, maybe different issues for young adults right after, the funding ends and maybe the transition plans aren't in place that we would like to look at.
Over here.
Barry present in his CERTS model, in the transactional support, they have, when he's saying what can we do, I think one of the things they build in is date nights for the parents. And that's part of that transactional support part is a model for helping kids with personal families.
Yeah, certainly, we've heard that before. Like single parent families where they have absolutely no breaks, not from work, not from home, not from, it's a constant. And other, and families too, the couple trying to maintain a couple, and don't have any time for each other, and the stress around that. Absolutely. So there are some concrete things I think that we can do. We just want to be able to show that this is not just our personal thoughts, right? But that there's some evidence from, many people in the province. So when we get enough of a data set from the province, we'll be able to say something a little bit more evidence-based. But yes, I think you're right, and that those kinds of things might be exactly, and not so difficult to implement either.
Yeah, us parents love those date nights.
I just had a quick question and a comment. Being actively involved in the diagnostic process of ASD, we see families at very different stages of acceptance at that kind of initial day.
Yeah.
And what would you, from reviewing the literature, and I back up a bit, I think that might be something that's also somewhat unique to ASD as opposed to other developmental disabilities that are more apparent.
What, sorry, can you just?
Like-
The diagnostic process, or the acceptance, okay.
Right, like where they're at when,
Yeah.
whether they're just waiting to get this diagnosis and are ready to move forward,
Mm-hmm.
or whether this diagnosis just blindsides them because they had, this wasn't where they were at. What, from reviewing the literature and looking at grief counseling and looking at that loss, do they talk about the impact of that kind of support? Like looking at the loss of your child's dreams, but the
Yeah.
loss of what you thought your life would be as a parent?
Specifically. Yeah, I've read literature that's looked at kind of what you're talking about in terms of the process and the coming to terms process, but not in terms of kind of how to help that along. But just something else you bring up that came up at a conference I was just at was the differences for families of ASD that it's becoming so well known now, and in TV shows and on the news and everything, that it's something and obviously it varies depending on where your child is and what your kind of preconceptions of ASD mean, but it's something to connect to. Whereas if you have a child with developmental disability, etiology unknown, or it's like difficult to connect with a group, or that type of thing. So I think to some extent there are different issues, and hopefully we can get into that.
Okay, over here.
Thank you. I've heard, as you're speaking, I've heard that a sense of connectedness is important, and both socially, but connection to your family as well. And I also heard I think someone speak about the sense of loss that happens a couple of times. I've heard that, and I was wondering if you've thought about sometimes as families, whether moms or dads, or we work so hard for sometimes very little progress and sometimes to go backwards. And so sometimes that sense of validation isn't there. And I'm wondering if that's a part of it at all, that people not seeing the work that you do put in, and whether it's work at home as a parent or work as outside the home as an individual, we all want to be validated. And sometimes that in itself is invisible, and the progress can't be seen as readily. And I wonder if you've thought of that at all.
We did talk a lot about kind of accessing or asking parents about their sense of efficacy, which I think is connected to sense of validation as a parent, or their ability to parent their child with ASD. And we've included a measure of family resilience in this study that we kind of decided got at some of that, as well as some other factors as well, because I think that's really important, what you're bringing up, and we talked about that a lot.
Yeah, the challenge is these measures are, they're all limited in their own way, and you can't capture, which is why we did a mix of online sort of survey style type questionnaires, and then a subset of people that we would call in to do in-depth interviewing, which you get more of the qualitative information that everyone here is giving us, right? And then what to do with that. We need to find sort of methods, qualitative methods, to analyze that kind of data and look for specific themes and so on. So we're hoping that by doing that kind of mixed methods approach, that we will get enough of the quantitative data in terms of numbers on the surveys, but then we get some richer information as well that we can complement that with from the qualitative interviews.
I am looking forward to actually doing that survey, and you've already sent the email to me. But what I'm thinking of is that I'm reminded today that really the road around autism is the road less traveled. If you look at Scott Peck's book, The Road Less Traveled, I'm sort of reminded that there are just so many different sources that may potentially lead somewhere or may lead to dead ends. And how do you decide what are the right ways to go?
That's a quick question.
Yeah, I think that
Big
gets
answer.
back to the comment at the beginning of the talk about, you know, you don't have the same benefit that most people when they have a new child, right? They have their parents and they have their aunts and uncles and, you know, people who've had children, and they pass along their wisdom and they say, oh, you know, you better not burp them this way and do that. And you know, you get all kinds of help and support and knowledge and, you know, wisdom. But when you're raising a child who nobody really knows about in terms of their needs or can, or you know, you can't even really read them in terms of what are they asking for, what do they need, it becomes really challenging, and you are pretty isolated because you don't have as much of that kind of passing on the wisdom that most people do. And so you're looking to professionals and you're looking to other people. And it's, as a parent probably, although I can't speak to that, but to me, I suspect that you feel maybe less control over what's happening, even less than most of us do when we're raising our own children. So.
We have time for one more question before we'll be taking a break.
My question is there any program that connects a parent whose child has recently been diagnosed with autism to connect them with another parent who's already gone through that process? Because I work in an early childhood program at UBC, one of the childcare programs, and one of our children has just recently been diagnosed, and I think that would be a really valuable thing, because in this certain situation, it's a family who has 3 children, 2 under the age of 5, a 7-year-old. The dad's the one who works at UBC, his wife is in school full-time, and the dad's always the one who drops off, always the one who picks up. They don't have any family who lives here locally, or even within Canada, and I think that would be a really valuable thing for somebody to take on as something that could be available to parents.
I agree. Does anyone?
Yeah, well, there are parent support groups, and I know that ACT will definitely do that. So if you have a family, they will connect you with another family.
One-on-one?
Yeah,
So it would be like
I believe so. If the parent,
not in a group, that
We can help with the parent, helping a parent connect with a family support group. But if a parent is looking directly for assistance from another parent, sometimes what can actually happen is a social worker can try and connect one family up with another family.
Okay.
So I can come to the information table and we can speak a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Thanks.
yeah, there are. Does anyone else know of other?
You can try the Family Support Institute.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
The Family Support Institute.
Regional contacts, right? Because they'll know each family that's identified to connect with.
Thank you again. We'll be taking a break now.